Two. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday with the umpteenth episode of HeleCloud Talks Cloud. I can't keep count. We have two guests today. I was going to say one internal and one external, but an AWS guest doesn't feel external. So we have Patrick Keane from AWS and Harry Potter from HeleCloud. So it's Felix. He has broken glasses, just like Harry Potter. Yeah, Oculus repairers. And, Patrick, if you want to present yourself so that I don't say anything embarrassing for you as well.
Sure. Hi, Patrick Keane with Amazon Web Services, covering the Amsterdam territory in the Netherlands, out of Luxembourg. Been with AWS for 3.5 years. Started out in New York City, where I'm from originally, the first year and a half, and I've been here in Luxembourg covering Amsterdam for the last 2 years. Worked closely with Walter and the team at HeleCloud.
Nice.
Yes, awesome. And I always enjoy working with Patrick. And he, unfortunately for him, he said smart things all the time. So I said, hey, you should come on the show and come say smart things on the stream. Here we are. Felix, do you also want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Lena and Walter, for having me on. Account manager here at HeleCloud. I've worked with Patrick a little bit, maybe about last year at some point, but now fully focused on the UK region and developing business in that area. So building relationships with people at Amazon Web Services and having a good time along the way. So yeah, thanks guys for having me on, and let's take it away, sort of thing.
Nice, thanks, Felix. We have three topics today. The first one is not necessarily the week was a little bit light on news. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but I searched and I couldn't really find super interesting things to discuss. So we have some more generic topics. What's that?
It was public holiday time. In Bulgaria, we have like 2 working days this week, and most people have taken them off. So there's no one to hack into anything and generate news.
Yeah, I guess so. The first article, because there's always enough articles to have an opinion about. That's what we do this week. The first article is an InfoWorld article, and it's quite interesting. Some of the takeaways. Lena, do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, it's a research paper that Accenture published, and it's being commented on at InfoWorld about early adopters versus laggards, as Accenture calls them. And depending on when you started adopting the cloud, your revenue differs greatly. So the leader's revenue is expected to grow exponentially in the next 5 years, whereas the laggards' revenue not so much. Although the laggards could compensate if they follow the recipe for success, which is instead of spending 30% on innovation and 70% on maintenance, do the opposite and increase and innovation spend to 70% and whittle the maintenance down to 30%. How realistic do you think that is?
That last part, probably not at all, but I do see the trend where the people who were the early adopters in cloud are definitely the ones that are ahead. I don't know how you see that. Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. You go first.
Maybe with relevance to kind of a case point or an industry. I think if we look at kind of the retail sector as an example. You kind of have what would be the laggards, which are kind of grocery stores and I guess established brands versus the online business, which is cloud native and just kind of a startup-y type of environment, and where I think that hiring in employees is definitely focused on modern individuals with modern capabilities and skills, and I guess that allows you to develop and strive for innovation, and it's definitely taking these bigger brands a significant amount of time to skill up, tool up with the resources required to actually drive innovation, right? And as Lena said, it's about a balance between maintenance and innovation. And it's about how do we manage operations versus actually, making time to develop products and develop innovation and bring competition to the market and be competitive. So I think definitely, I definitely see the pain there and understand that adopting cloud early and being a modern type of business is definitely, I can understand how it's impacting revenue there.
The point that the article is making is that a great issue for laggards is that they just try to transfer their on-prem, I call them abominations, to the cloud without actually transforming them in any way to be cloud ready or cloud native or whatever. And this is why they can't really benefit from being on the cloud. You can't benefit from the cloud if your application is still looking for IP addresses instead of host names, or is not able to scale in a horizontal fashion. So you can't put it in an auto scaling group, or you can't shut down the entire environment and start it back up because of all the tricky dependencies in between the application and the statefulness and the lack of ability to preserve the cache before you stop the environment and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's applying the cloud just to apply the cloud, rather than, I think when you're looking at how the cloud can benefit your business, like how, I think that's the huge benefit of the cloud, other than just the cost savings, is how does, it's not just the infrastructure, it's not just supplying you the infrastructure, it can actually help you reach your business objectives much easier than you could with some of the on-premise. So I think when you're just looking at it as I'm migrating to the cloud, you're losing a lot of the benefits of the cloud, which is the machine learning, everything else that it can do for you. So I think that's what really adds to a laggard. So you want to make sure you understand the benefits of the cloud before you're doing that migration, so you can get the most out of it once you make that move.
And I'd potentially add to that and say, I think, if you look at laggards, perhaps, they're large organizations with multiple departments, right? And it's very hard to use the cloud strategically if there's one technical person in a specific department that's using a certain, AWS technology. Whereas if you look at a smaller, more modern kind of startup, you're going to have kind of a holistic approach where the senior leadership are all working together to actually drive the cloud for a business goal, right? Rather than just for sexy technology, it's about what's the output of this, rather than what is it, what are the fancy words there. So I think that, that's definitely something to add there. Using it strategically is obviously very important.
I think we still encounter customers that or prospects that we talked to a potential customer last year. It was, and they had an IT director who one of the first sentences he said was, "I have no idea about technology. I'm just an IT director." And I understand that you don't necessarily need to know how to develop Python code, but having a super basic understanding of what software and infrastructure is like is super important to be able to see the benefits. Because if you don't look at the technical advantages that can bring you the business value later on, you will just think, indeed, cloud is just another data center. Let's move our applications there and not change anything else, because all of that costs money. And if you see it as a cost center, it's never going to deliver you value. And I'm always baffled when I talk to those companies, and they are definitely the laggards. And eventually, they chose to not go ahead, because the reality is that they're still in that old mindset, and somewhere there is a engineering at fault for not being able to properly articulate what the actual benefits are of cloud, and at the same time, it's also on senior management to properly see the value in these things and educate themselves a little bit on what the how to say that, the competitive advantages are of adopting cloud early.
I'd definitely be interested to see which industries the Accenture this article kind of refers to, because I know some an industry like the fintech industry or financial services is obviously a lot further ahead in their adoption of cloud than, say, the energy industry. But potentially a laggard there is an innovator in that sense. So be interesting to see which industries it applies to.
Yeah, I see huge differences in different industries, and consistently, fintech seems to be ahead of the curve when it comes to these things. And what you mentioned, retail earlier, it's very rare to see companies of old being ahead of the curve in these kind of things. We have a company here in the Netherlands. They used to back in the 90s when I was growing up, they would deliver a book every 6 months to your door, one of those mail order books, and it had everything in it from bed sheets to toys to clothes to you name it. And they actually stopped distributing the paper version of their catalog back in 2007 or 2008. And back then, people said, wow, why are they doing that? That's so silly. There's so much value in that. And what they did was go early, all in on digital. And by that, they are still around now. And it's quite interesting to see. Sorry?
And so are a lot of trees.
Yes, and so are a lot of trees also.
Although that's debatable because we still need energy to power the cloud.
Yeah. Minor details.
There's also that in the article, how it's ecologically better for people to use the cloud instead of everyone running their own data center. It's just in terms of energy use, it's more efficient.
Yeah, we definitely see that.
No, these points here, they're all obviously, statistically backed, and but I think the main challenge is around education and knowledge transfer for the cloud. I think the proof is in the pudding sort of thing, but actually getting somebody to migrate to the cloud, it's all about educating them in the right way and almost letting them understand it for themselves, right? I mean, if bringing in a partner or a consultancy and people telling you how to run things and do things, that doesn't sit well with some people, and from that perspective, it's more about the education. So the point around in sustainability and the environmental benefits of using cloud over your on-premise infrastructure, definitely holds weight. But it's how do we transfer that knowledge to the people that actually, the decision makers to move to the cloud, and that's I think that's one of the big challenges for the cloud ecosystem and AWS and specifically, in the next few years.
I've seen several problems with the topic of skills and experience in not the upper layers, but the engineer layers in an organization. I've seen organizations hire people who can pronounce Amazon Web Services and Terraform correctly at the interview, but don't actually have any skills. And I think that this is a big risk for companies that are trying to do this by themselves instead of using partners, where you have the list of skills that you need to hire people based on, but how do you evaluate those if you don't already have them? And then there's the other problem. I've seen people who have extensive experience doing system administration of on-prem environments for multiple customers, for enterprise organizations with Linux and networking and VMware experience, who failed to adapt to the DevOps principles and the type of job that you need to do as a cloud engineer. And the failure was not because they couldn't learn anything new per se, but it's also because this is not the type of job that they want to do. because the dynamics is extraordinary. You have to learn new things constantly, and you're suddenly responsible for absolutely everything, because AWS has so many services that you all of a sudden have to understand everything. You're not just a Linux expert anymore. You're backup, patching, CI/CD pipeline security, not to mention costs, which is an all-time favorite of every DevOps engineer who didn't have to do that before, but suddenly is responsible for cost as well.
I think what you hit on is great. It's when people look at it and they're looking to do a migration or something, sometimes they think of it, they get paralyzed because they can't figure, they're trying to move every last workload, right? Every group. And I think that's the other thing. You don't have to boil the ocean. You can just start with a few workloads. And I think it also helps when the whole company's aligned, where senior leadership is also really backing that move. And then it's making sure you are trained, like you said, but not feeling like everything has to move at once. And it's having a good plan going forward with it as well.
It's waterfall versus agile. It's the old way of thinking versus the new way of thinking. It is a complete transformation of the way you plan and think and execute.
Yes.
Yep. And to a little bit back on your on one of your points, Lina, one of my very first jobs, looking back now, this is 20 years ago, it was a horrible decision to take it. I followed some Delphi courses in college, maybe 6 months worth of a couple of classes a week. And then I went out to the job market, and somehow a company hired me as their senior software developer to rewrite an application that the CEO, it was a very small company, that the CEO had written over the last 15 years. Without any documentation, without any designs, no knowledge, and it was a very domain-specific application. And that guy had been searching for someone who knew what Delphi was for years. And so when I came along and I could have even a 5-minute conversation about it, he literally offered me the job on the spot. And I was so junior that I was really excited, and I said yes. And then obviously this ended in a huge disappointment on both sides. Big learning opportunity, but it talks about volumes about how this the difficulty with this digital skills gap is driving people to do things that they should probably not be doing.
But that's also, about the qualification, and that's why there's such a gap between the innovators and the laggards. I think that's the words you chose, is because if you have a laggard that doesn't really understand cloud as well as it potentially should do, there's a difficulty in hiring. If you're interviewing somebody and you yourself don't really fully understand the things and the qualities you're looking for, and as I said, working with a partner not only help you in the cloud but accelerate that adoption of cloud, and then also hand you back the opportunity to train up on AWS, right? And that's really important, is training up yourselves whilst also working with somebody else. So somebody holding your hand through the process, and that's what a good partnership do. But definitely laggards versus these modern companies, is the expertise is vastly, there's a variance in it.
It's an aggressive market where the minute you post on LinkedIn that you have an AWS certificate, you have 10 messages from headhunters. And if you're doing it on your own and you have a small team of AWS experts, maybe 2 to 4,
or zero. We see a lot of customers who have zero.
Yeah. And I think that's key, is the partner side of it. If you are lagging, using a partner is a great way to get it done properly, and learning from them while you're doing the migration. And whichever company that is, there's partners who support that solution that you're migrating with. And it's absolutely key in that instance to use a partner. I think waiting till you get the skill set can just make your laggard longer. I think it makes a lot of sense to have a top down from the firm that you're working at, like everybody's bought into it. But then if you don't have the skill set, get a partner. There's usually funding programs to assist with stuff like that. But that way you're learning while they're doing it, and you can start getting your team trained at the same time. But at least it allows you not to fall behind.
It's true. Yesterday I was sitting on the weekly sales call that we have in HeleCloud, and there was a discussion about how the feedback from our customers is that consistently we deliver crazy talented people. And then I thought to myself, how is this possible? Why do we somehow have these people and other companies are struggling for them? And I realized actually it's relatively simple because we put the bar quite high, and we have the focus. So a lot of our customers, they are doing AWS as a part of running a business, and it's not actually the core of their business. And so for them, it's one of the 700 things they need to do. And by coincidence, this one of 700 things is actually something you could study a PhD on and still not have enough knowledge on all of it. And we happen to have a whole bunch of these people. So it's not, I don't necessarily think that our guys are somehow way ahead of the rest of the world. It's just that the market out there is it's pretty tough, and having some smart people with some experience that can actually can afford to focus on AWS full time allows for them to be the how to say that, at the forefront of the market. And
there's something else as well. There's something you can have by being a larger team that you can't have when you have a smaller team, because there's so much to learn about AWS. If you split it into focus areas that different people are responsible for, then it's less overwhelming for everyone, and you create an ecosystem where everyone can help each other, and you have enough experts in different pillars.
Yes. Somehow we ended up talking a lot about the very first article, which is totally fine.
Proud because it was my topic and not one of yours.
Well, you're welcome to contribute as many topics as you can next time. One of the second topic is relatively short. I just want to touch on it because I think that using this platform also for a focus on security is important. Back in 2018, there was a vulnerability called Spectre. And Spectre was interesting because it was a hardware flaw in CPUs. And because of this, we had a huge impact worldwide on everything that has a CPU. Since then, there have been some variants that do the same, but now there are some researchers at the University of Virginia, and they have found a variant that breaks almost all of the current solutions to this problem. And if that holds true, then it's back to the drawing board for the CPU producers. And the last time when Spectre hit, they had to fix it in the CPU design, but at the same time they applied software fixes which had a performance impact for all computing, like whether it's your laptop or anywhere else, of 20-30% that nobody could do anything about. And so if that holds back, if that breaks back down, then we have quite an interesting challenge ahead of us doing another cycle of this. And it's interesting from a perspective where if you are on a cloud environment, you don't necessarily need to worry about these things. So I've been in a think tank group where some people are still running data centers and all that stuff, and they have to have a huge nightmare on how to fix all of this stuff. We have AWS for it, and this is where the how to say that, the shared responsibility model is actually in the customer's a huge favor, because very simply put, it's something that you don't have to worry about too much, and for me that's a huge advantage for cloud, because if you're in a data center now you have to worry about this, and it really has zero business value to have to think about these kind of things. So for me that's a big advantage of being on cloud, basically any cloud, but yeah. So there, so these hardware vulnerabilities are quite interesting, simply because it's something that is so early on in the supply chain that there isn't really much that any of us can do about it, except for deal with the consequences, and that's a thing that we have to do. Yes. Last topic then.
Con is happening. Actually, the last day is today.
Today, yeah.
Wow, so it almost already happened.
It almost already happened. I think KubeCon is super interesting. I don't necessarily. So I'm a bit divided on Kubernetes. I see some companies having lots of advantages of it, but I see too many companies that are trying to run Kubernetes themselves and then somehow are surprised that they have to learn about, I don't know, networking sidecars, all kinds of stuff that I don't even want to know about, let alone that as a company that's trying to drive a business, I don't know, selling cars, you want to not be worried about these things. So for me, Kubernetes is something that if you're a really large company, sure, you can think about running it yourself. But if you're a smaller company, you should probably just stick with managed Kubernetes, and in that respect, cloud is definitely the way to go. And I think that these, we saw it with configuration management as well, where people are trying to run things themselves because big boys are running it themselves. And I don't necessarily think that this is something that you want to that you should be doing, but it's very tempting, and it has to do with if you go to a big conference. I used to go to these MySQL conferences, and you go there and you have someone from what was it back in the day? Facebook back in the day. You have someone from Facebook explaining how they're running thousands of servers or tens of thousands of servers, and they're doing all of these super crazy things to have automatic everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, that's really cool. Also, it's something that almost no one should even be thinking about. How about you just think about running your, back in this was pre-cloud. How about you just think about running your MySQL server and make sure that you have backups in case something fails and that you can restore them instead of thinking about super advanced technologies. And this is the same thing with Kubernetes. Too many people get excited about the prospect of running Kubernetes and then end up spending all of their time running this piece of software that by itself provides zero business value. Sorry, whole rant.
On Hashi Days or HashiConf, I forget what it was called at the time, they were presenting the new version of console, and the next day the Norway police, I think it was running a console cluster of like 20,000 nodes, and I remember Mitchell and Armand were both like, we haven't even tested it with that many.
Yes.
I was just impressed the level of digital transformation in the Norway police, because our police officers are still doing paper and pen, which is good for me because when I get pulled over, it takes forever to check if I'm wanted for anything, and I probably am. So.
Related to KubeCon, I can recommend people to do a search on Twitter. Twitter is a great place for Kubernetes community, and just looking at some of the key players in the Kubernetes space can give you huge value in looking at which are the most interesting talks. Usually, I like these kind of conferences. As tempting as it is to spend a whole week learning about Kubernetes, it's much easier to just turn off your incoming signals until the week is over and then look at, these are the 5 top talks from this conference. Okay, cool. I'll watch those and have the summary right there.
Yeah. So I think our time is up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I talk too much.
You do, Walter. But I'm going to give Felix and Patrick the opportunity to promote an idea or themselves. Felix, you can go first. You have 1 minute.
Patrick, please go first. I'm still thinking.
Oh, no, just glad to be on here. Glad to be with the HeleCloud team, and thank you. And if you're looking to go to the cloud, you can reach out. Thanks for having me on the talk.
Thank you.
Thanks
Patrick.
for being here. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Lena and Walter. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on here. And as if you're willing to reach out to Patrick, then reach out to myself as well. We can have a 3-way conversation and make a happy family. So great to be on, and see you soon.
Thanks so
we're all
much.
wizards here, so come and join the magic.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.